We'll hit recording. Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us here this morning. My name is Su-Ling Ching, and it is my honor to be the President and CEO of the Ottawa Board of Trade. We are so pleased to have some special guests here with us this morning to talk about an important new private sector-driven and key initiative to the successful reopening of our economy. Before we get started, I want to say thank you to our member businesses who continue to support our work through sponsorships. So thank you to the Ottawa Citizen, to Enbridge and Tiger Lily Marketing, as well to our presenting partners here today, the Business Council of Canada and the Post Promise. As many of you know, the Ottawa Board of Trade mission is to create prosperity through advocacy, collaboration, and leadership. We do this by representing the interests of all businesses in our region, every size and sector. And we help these businesses devise tactical solutions to scale up. We work with our elected representatives and decision makers on creating a competitive business environment and helping promote Ottawa as a global iconic city. These past 15 or 16 weeks since the beginning of COVID have had us ramp up these conversations, working with community and business leaders to identify and advise on key issues facing our businesses during the lockdown. And now, as we start to reopen, also talking about how we can have a successful recovery. And one of the things that keeps coming up, aside from the decisions from all levels of government, of course, is how we can build business, consumer, and workforce confidence. And we're so grateful to today's presenters for their part working with other national partners in helping us do just that through the Post Promise. So I'm very pleased to welcome here today, and I'm going to ask each of them to say a few words about their current role and the work that they have been doing that has been so essential to the economic well-being of our community here in Ottawa and across Canada. So welcome to Goldy Hyder, who is the President and CEO of the Business Council of Canada, and to Laura Hearn, who is the President and Executive Director of the Post Promise. So welcome to you both. And I maybe will just start with you, Goldy. If you could spend just a moment introducing yourself, that would be fantastic.
Great. Well, first of all, Su-Ling, thank you so much for having us. And thank you to you, your team, your board, and your members for all the hard work that you do to advance the issues that you've raised in the nation's capital, because I've always said Ottawa is truly the reflective of what Canada is. And if we can show the rest of the country the way, a lot of good will come from that. So we appreciate this opportunity to talk about the Post Promise and whatever else your listeners want to speak to. I represent, as you mentioned, the Business Council of Canada. It's an organization that was prior to me run by John Manley, who's of course very well known here in the Ottawa community. We are about 160 plus CEOs of the largest companies in the country, many of whom are global, which is relevant to the conversation because there's a lot of experience that people have had over the last 3 months and 6 months or so that can be helpful here. We represent about 1.7 million employees in the country directly. But as I like to stress, as much as I feel like I represent the big business, the truth is we're very concerned by the supply chain and the integrity of that supply chain. So a lot of what we've been doing, including the Post Promise, is in many ways about that multiple of at least 4 that I use to say that big businesses help create jobs for at least 4 other people in that supply chain. And so we have a very strong SME focus over the course of this crisis. And frankly, it's how the Post Promise came about, is how are we going to make sure that the integrity of that supply chain from not just the large businesses, but all the way into the small businesses remain as strongly intact as possible coming out of this crisis.
Thank you, Goldy. I think there's one thing that we all know for sure during this pandemic is that all sizes and sectors of business are connected to each other. So we thank you for your work. And Laura, welcome. You are brand new to the Post Promise, but we'd love to learn a little bit more about you and the Post Promise as well.
Yeah, sure. So you let your viewers know have recently assumed the role of President and Executive Director of the Post Promise. Prior to that, I've held a variety of senior roles in both the for-profit and not-for-profit sectors, primarily focused on marketing and brand building, and then not-for-profit operations and management. So when this opportunity, this tremendous, unique opportunity came to me, it was just something I couldn't turn down. And I just wanted to echo what Goldy said. Thank you so much for providing this opportunity for us to tell you about the Post Promise. We really do think that this is a critical juncture from a Canadian business perspective. And really the Post Promise was created to help all businesses do what they can to help restore consumer confidence. And so the more we get to talk about it, the more businesses will learn about it, the more we'll make the promise, and we'll just get further along that journey to reestablishing consumer confidence. So thank you for having us today.
Thank you, Laura, so much. So Goldy, maybe we'll start with you. Can you share with us, how did the Post Promise even come about?
Great question. So one of our members, the CEO of Palmorix, also known for the Weather Network, put us in touch with two of the principals in Aidan over at SALT, and Sean Francis, who's over at the CEO of Medcan. And what we were able to do is listen to the simplicity of their offering, which was, we need a word mark campaign, something that helps people feel. Remember, this is not about IQ as much as it's about EQ. It's like, help me feel that I can be safe while I coexist with COVID. And when you think about it, it's in many ways like a Good Housekeeping logo, an ISO 9000 logo, or a Dine Safe logo, or a Leeds logo in construction. Most people don't really know what goes behind all of those logos. What they know is, seeing that makes me feel that this premise, this employer, this business is doing what they can to be compliant and to keep us safe. We're not a compliant program. We're not a regulatory program. What this is a word mark designed to make people realize that these businesses, by taking the Post Promise, which, by the way, I will say this is probably the poster child for the keep it simple, stupid approach to things. Sometimes the answer is not complicated. It's very apparent. It's very obvious. A simple logo, if this can help get people out of their houses to visit the coffee shop, the dry cleaner, the restaurant, the areas in their own community, which is step one. It will go a very long way in building public confidence. But here's the other part of it that's very key, is national consistency. We're doing this on the eve of Canada Day. I love Canada, but we have too many piecemeal approaches here that is confusing Canadians at times. What we need to do is give them a single thing to latch on to. So whether they're in Saskatoon, in Timmins, in Halifax, or Ottawa, if they're at a restaurant, if they're walking down a street, if they're seeing things and they say, I know what that's about, that's the place that's working hard to keep me safe. It's something as simple as that is essential. Let me just conclude by saying this. We know from our members, and I'm sure from your members, the thing that's keeping them up tonight is not just the issue of the health and safety, which we've done a very, very good job at, but it's the restart. Can a business function and work if only 20% or 30% of their customer returns to visit their premises? And the answer is highly unlikely, if not no. So what we need to do is create conditions in which there's a higher degree of engagement in our economy, and that will come from confidence. I hear it from our members who, as I said, run the largest businesses in the country. We all talk about public confidence as being key, but we can't just talk about it. We need to show them. And what this campaign does is it shows them that businesses are doing everything they can to keep their customers safe and their employees safe.
I thank you for saying that and for making that point. And I can tell you that even in Ottawa, our business leaders started talking about a program just like this some time ago. And so we were so grateful to learn through the Global Canadian Cities Council that you and other national leaders we're taking up this task so that we could make it countrywide. Because as we move forward and as our provincial barriers, start to open up again, that's going to be the key, is to go across our country and be able to know what that symbol means. And so we were happy to get on board with that. And I think the goal is that all our organizations and businesses across Canada adopt this one piece for consistency. Thank you. So Laura, can you share with us, how does a business make the promise, and what exactly are they agreeing to do when they do?
Absolutely. So it's quite straightforward. Businesses can go to our website, which is postpromise.com, and the site outlines and provides some information and education on what those key steps are to help ensure the safety of their customers and, as Goldy said, employees. And so businesses on the site are asked to voluntarily commit to following those five steps all the time. And the steps are quite straightforward. They were created in consultation with public health, and we now see the graphic on the screen. And they are maintain a safe physical distance of 2 meters or more. Stay home if unwell. Practice respiratory etiquette, which means things like sneezing into your elbow or wearing a mask when safe physical distancing isn't possible. Cleaning and disinfecting all surfaces regularly, and washing and sanitizing hands also regularly. And, I want to be clear that these steps are absolutely not meant to take the place of what businesses are currently doing now, or what have been set out from government and public health in terms of what's required for a safe reopening. Instead, the whole genesis of the Post Promise was to complement all of these efforts. And so when businesses make the promise, they then receive some material from us to help them educate and amplify their employees and their consumers of the commitment that they've made. And one of the key pieces is, for free, they get a downloadable printable PDF of the Post Promise hexagon logo, which they can proudly display, again, to signify their commitment to the promise and to taking those steps to keep everybody safe.
Very good, thank you. So Goldy, as Laura mentioned, it's not just about businesses following these 5 steps, but about giving some confidence to customers and to the employees. So why is that so important, and what are the added benefits for businesses to get involved with this?
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, these are business people online and watching the webinar. It's about math. The math has to work for businesses to open. And the only way the math is going to work is if the customer feels confident in returning. And so that to us is the critical thing here. We're going to be weaned off some of these federal programs and so forth, and businesses are going to have to make decisions about how they're going to reopen and function in that environment. We're trying to create hope, transition from fear to hope, to say to people, we can do this. We're Canadians, we're compliant, we follow rules, we do the right thing, and we can do it while COVID still exists, because the truth is we don't know how long it's going to be around. I think that what Laura said is really, really important here. This is both, first and foremost, endorsed by Public Health Agency and Health Canada. They're the first 2 people I called, right? The first 2 people to say, I know this is dead on arrival if you don't buy in. To their credit, they responded very quickly, bought in, and said, look, we think this is a program that's got a lot of merit. And then we went to work on the economic side with Minister Morneau and Minister Ng and others. And as you may have seen, the Prime Minister himself endorsed this campaign, announced it and introduced it, did a nice photo op with the logo that you see over my shoulders here. And we're just getting started. This is something that people need to experience and feel and see. When members or the people who go online, what you're being asked to do is essentially make the promise, commit that you're going to practice These 5 simple things, all of which, by the way, are the basics, the most basic fundamental things that you need to be doing if you're going to have any chance of ensuring that you're going to get your customers back. We know that, you know, from your industry associations and others, and many of whom are partners of the Post Promise, you're already getting lots of specific, you know, calls to action on how to keep your businesses safe. What makes this special is the government of Canada has now decided, under the leadership of Minister Mary Ng, to actually make the Post Promise its portal to communicate with Canadian businesses, large, small, and everything in between, in terms of sector-specific guidelines. So on the one hand, you have the Post Promise, but you also receive important information from the Government of Canada that's available to you. And what we need to do here is create the buzz and make this viral and make this spread. And the support of the Canadian Global Cities Council and you is essential in doing that, because your members are hundreds of thousands of businesses across the country in the 8 largest cities that will help create this. And the more Canadians see this logo, the more that comfort and confidence will build, the more the curiosity will build for other businesses. Hey, what's that about? Why are people lined up at this ice cream shop, but not that ice cream shop? This is the way in which we think we're going to be able to build that momentum. And it's free. It's free to sign up. It's free that you're able to take the pledge. We've got kits available. We're looking at businesses to help support businesses to get those kits if they can't afford the $9.95. It's essentially the cost of the kit and shipping. It's really an opportunity here. And I know Laura has more statistics on that she can share with you.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And, you know, I think you make a good point, both of you, that this is a basic program which businesses can easily follow in addition to their industry standards. But even in the beginning phases of our reopening, there's a great diversity on how businesses have approached the reopening. And I hear stories all the time how, you know, one retail shop in the same business as another retail shop have rolled out completely differently. But by all of us buying into this, if we can sort of increase the overall pie by increasing consumer confidence, then everyone will benefit. So there's both a sort of a public and a business obligation to buy into a program like this. So Laura, I mean, it's about consumer confidence 100%, but other issues that we've seen during the reopening is workforce confidence. So how can businesses specifically use the Post Promise to also inspire confidence in their workforce?
So that's a really great question. And we do tend to talk about the Post Promise and the benefit to regaining, you know, consumer confidence. But the consumer confidence and employee confidence absolutely goes hand in hand. And so the program was designed right from the beginning to be applicable to both. And, you know, as an example of that, when businesses make the promise, in addition to providing the word mark that they can go and they can display so that their customers know they're following, we also provide them with tools that they can use to communicate to their employees. So things like sample email templates that outline what the promise is and why it's important, and just reestablish that commitment to keeping them safe. The other thing that we do is we provide employees with answers to frequently asked questions. And I can tell you these frequently asked questions, that list is growing every day. But we really do see employees as critical in terms of being able to not only believe themselves that this is important and these are the right things to do, but also to communicate to customers and be able to answer, you know, all of those questions. So we really do equip businesses with what they need to be able to try and gain that buy-in from their employees right from day one. Now, the good news in all of this is that the burden to, you know, make employees aware of the Post Promise doesn't sit solely on the shoulders of the business owners. Employees, of course, are consumers. So when they are picking up their dry cleaning, when they are, you know, getting a coffee or having a beer at a local pub, you know, they're hopefully seeing the Post Promise as well in those environments. And that's also sort of reestablishing, you know, what this brand means and why it's important. And, you know, we really do believe that for this to be successful, for the reopening to be successful, it has to be that joint magic of consumer and employee confidence. And you know, employees who are part of businesses who make the post promise, they can know that their business, where they're working, is taking the steps needed to keep everybody safe. And I think that's a really powerful employee engagement tool, and just being a part of something bigger and working for a good corporate citizen. So I think there's a lot there for employees for sure.
I agree. And that's a message that we have been pushing forward too, is that, you know, not just the government, not just the business leaders, not just you as community leaders are responsible for the successful recovery of our economy, but every person has a part to play. So every employee and every consumer, and working together in that is 100%. The campaign is inclusive of all businesses, Laura, but you know, do you feel there'll be specific sectors that will benefit from making and promoting the pledge?
You're right. It was designed to be applicable and accessible to all types of businesses, regardless of size, regardless of sector. And when I look at who's made the promise to date, I mean, certainly you see a lot of promises coming from food service, so restaurants and bars, as well as retail. But you also see a lot of promises from companies in the areas of, you know, manufacturing or real estate. So, you know, I think that there is something for any business here. And as we talked about, you know, even if you don't have a traditional retail space where you're welcoming customers back, you may have a large employee base who it's just as important to communicate your commitment to them as it is your customers. So I really do think that, and of course this was before my time, so I can't take any credit for this, but the simplicity of the design, but also the fact that it applies to every business in Canada is where the brilliance and the magic of the post promise, you know, really comes to be.
Right. Thank you. Goldy, this is a business-led initiative, but as you've already mentioned, has received massive government support, and I get my government updates, and the post promise is in all of my government updates. So I thank you for taking it to that level for all of our benefits. Do you have any ideas about what else the government can be doing to drive up confidence among consumers and employees? And then I'm going to ask you a second question, because this is one thing that's always struck me about you and your role, is that you also never place the burden solely on government, but also on our business leaders. So first, what can the government do? And then what can the business leaders be doing in order to build this confidence?
Well, again, we're very fortunate to have received the support that we have received. But if I can just say that, like politics, all business is also all local. So it's great to see that, you know, Minister Phillips here in Ontario and the Premier's office and others have been aware and encouraging the post promise. All of the premiers have discussed it on their calls as well. And so we need to bring it to the community. And I think the mayors, in particular, Mayor Tory, I know has tweeted it out there when it was launched. I may have missed it if Mayor Watson did it or not, but if he hasn't, we got to get him to do it. We need to see that this is supported by all levels of government. You know, this is a reminder that control your own destiny. What can businesses do? You know, we're not health professionals. We're not out to give health advice and so forth. Let's be guided by the experts in that area. Be mindful of what they're asking us to do and make it possible to do. What we are business people. We know that in order to make our business work, we need customers. We need to have confidence that people are going to come to the store. And as we transition into this restart period that we're in, we have to remember that we're having to change Canadian psyche and consciousness from being, there's a virus, it's dangerous, don't go outside, to there's a virus, it remains dangerous, but you can go outside now. And that transition that needs to take place, we need to give a little bit of an impetus at all levels of government to say, this is how life is going to be until there's a vaccine. No one knows how long that's going to be, but here's what we do know. We can't live like this. Right. We need to go out. We need to be able to get some of our lives back, and we can do it safely if we follow basic basic advice. I think it's really important. First of all, like, what do you lose to participate in this campaign? Absolutely nothing, but you got to do what the promise is that you're making, because it deteriorates the brand if people just think this is something that they print and stick up. No, you've got to take that promise, and that promise is a commitment that you're making to your employees and your customers that you're going to make it safe. The other thing, and we live in a social digital world, governments and others are doing their part, but we need businesses to do their part. Take a photo of your business, of you putting up the post sign, and send it around to your customers. And let's make this thing much more of a viral campaign, so that people are talking about it and that buzz is being created about the post campaign. Governments are going to continue to do what you've just said. They're going to continue to share it. It's an in-kind in many ways. And hopefully this makes it into the Canadian Revenue Agency notices and all those things that they're already spending money on, that just says, have you taken the post promise? What's the post promise? So I think we can make this really, really a large scale campaign, especially if we're going to be in this for a while. And as I said, I hope not, but we don't really know. So we have got to give businesses a chance to be successful, because the worst thing you can do right now is have a business open up to be compliant, to get the social distancing in place, and the customer doesn't return.
Right.
That is the risk that we all face. And this is about making sure that those customers can return. And businesses are doing their part. Where governments come in as, do your part on public safety as it relates to public transportation. And let's get clear, consistent policies out there on childcare and schools, because people need to be able to go back to work and be able to re-engage in society to make it work.
100%. Thank you so much for that. And that is the whole key, is that we are going to live within this, but the longer it takes to restart our economy, the more at risk our public health is as well. And so they are completely intertwined. And so we need to just look for ways where we consistently can work together to get the economy restarted.
Can I just say, Su Ling, on that point, one thing that Laura and I didn't mention, I think it's important that we say it, is in many ways, this is, I say this tongue in cheek, but it's about making Canada safe again. How do we make Canadians feel that they can go beyond their grocery store, that they can go on a vacation and see parts of Canada? Our travel industry, our tourism industry, our hospitality industry, our airline industry have been pummeled by what is policy at the end of the day, the border closures and the quarantines. We need to wake up and see that the rest of our competitors in our countries around the world are opening up their economies. They're opening up to realize that we have to coexist with COVID. And a simple campaign like this may be a big part of how it is that we can do that. And so we have to give those businesses a fighting chance at survival, for not just the immediate, but for the long haul. And that's what we're excited about, is we think that this will help alleviate pressures on government to subsidize the economy and get business going back to doing what it's doing, and Canadians back out there shopping.
I compliment you and all of your colleagues on its simplicity. It's something that every business can implement and demonstrate leadership for in their community. So when's the last time a business gets handed, a free marketing campaign, to promote themselves and to contribute to the community? And so I think that's an important part, because other jurisdictions are opening successfully, and we need to find a way to do that here in Canada as well. So Laura, we're maybe 3 weeks in since the launch of the Post Promise. What have you seen so far in terms of business engagement?
We've seen tremendous support, I think, and I think Goldy can probably speak to sort of what the initial vision was, but certainly the amount of success that we've had in less than 3 weeks since we officially launched has been incredible. And certainly a lot of that is tied to the government support and endorsements that we received in the early days. We've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of businesses already make the promise. We've had associations that represent, 150,000 businesses, stand up and take leadership roles. We've had incredible corporate partners like Labatt, make this their single message that they want to get across, the support of the Post Promise. So the traction that we have in a very short period of time has been incredible. You know, we are building a brand from scratch, though, and we are building consumer awareness from scratch, and we are a not-for-profit. So, you know, I think that it's still very much early days. I tell myself this every morning. It's still very much early days. We're really focused on how we can, you know, focus on business acquisition, both at the grassroots level, you know, small businesses that are doing really important, great work, all the way up to larger corporate partners, and then in tandem building consumer awareness of it. So there's a lot happening, but a lot of energy and a lot of traction's been made in a very short period of time. So we're really, really happy with it.
Yeah. We're just getting started, Suling, but opportunities like this help us get the word out. So thank you so much to you and your team and your members for, you know, hearing this out, and let's jump on board and make this happen.
I appreciate you saying that. So just to be clear, our ultimate goal is every business across Canada signs up for the Post Promise, right? And that together then,
exactly,
right, together as a private sector, that we are able to contribute to our own recovery. And so I thank you both for the work that you've done. And Laura, I appreciate, you know, how you have jump-started it, and but the truth is, right, Goldy, is that we're going to need this to work, and for the foreseeable future, we need this to work. So
postpromise.com, by the way, I should have said the website, right? Just simple postpromise.com and it's not only available in French also, but we're working on multilingual for those businesses that may have you know, requirements for Mandarin or Punjabi or other businesses across the country to reflect the diversity of Canada.
well done, well done. So I can share with you that the Ottawa Board of Trade is fully behind this initiative and will continue to promote in every way possible and make the Post Promise as well. And so thank you both again for being here, and maybe we can check back in with you in a little while and get an update on how it's going, and if there's more that we can continue to do, please do call on us. So
thank you.
Have a great day. Happy Canada Day. And I hope that we see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us here today. For more information about what the Ottawa Board of Trade is doing to support Ottawa reopening and to prepare for a successful recovery, including promoting the Post Promise, please go to our website, ottawabot.ca. And again, take a look at the postpromise.com website for all the information that you need to do the Post Promise yourself, to share it with your community and within your network. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Happy Canada Day, and have a great one.